Hey everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us. Today we've got a brand new story to share with you. So let's begin. A few years ago, if someone had asked, I would have told them I was a lucky man. My life wasn't extravagant, but it was good. A steady job, a roof over my head, and most importantly, a woman I loved. I worked 2 jobs, not out of necessity but by choice. I believed in hard work, in saving for the future, in building something solid for us. It was exhausting, sure, but I never complained. I was doing it for us, for the life we were meant to share. Our home was modest but comfortable. Nothing fancy, nothing flashy, just enough. And I thought I had everything a man could ever want. A wife who looked at me like I was her whole world. A partner who waited up after my long shifts and sent me texts throughout the day. I miss you, Nathan. Take care of yourself. I love you. And I believed her. When you love someone, you don't question them. You don't dissect every word, searching for cracks. You don't go looking for betrayal. You trust. That's exactly what I did. I believed in every smile, every gentle touch, every whispered I love you. But love has a way of blinding you. I thought I had a perfect marriage. I thought I had a devoted wife. The truth, though, was something else entirely. One day, reality hit me in a way I never saw coming. It was just an ordinary evening. I'd come home from work, aching from another long shift. The sun was setting, bathing the neighborhood in a soft, golden glow. All I wanted was a hot shower, a quick meal, and a few hours of sleep before doing it all over again. But as I approached the house, my neighbor called out to me. To be clear, we weren't exactly close. We exchanged polite nods now and then, maybe a casual "how's it going?" in passing. No deep conversations, no real connection. So when this man, an older guy in his late 50s, the kind who seemed permanently stationed on his front porch, motioned for me to come over, I hesitated. He looked uneasy, his eyes shifting nervously as though he didn't want anyone else to overhear. "Hey," he said, shifting in his chair. "Look, I don't mean to cause trouble, and maybe it's none of my business, but I've noticed something." I frowned. "Noticed what?" His gaze flicked toward my house, then back to me. "Your wife," he said quietly. "She's been bringing a man home while you're at work." I blinked, the words hitting me like a punch to the gut. Then, before I could stop myself, I let out a short, breathy laugh. A laugh born more of disbelief than anything else. "A man?" I repeated, shaking my head. "Nah, if she's bringing someone home, it's probably just a relative. Maybe her cousin or something." But he didn't laugh. He didn't even smile. He just gave me a look I couldn't quite place, somewhere between pity and hesitation. "I don't think so," he said softly. "I've seen him a few times. Same guy. And it's always when you're not around." I stood there, my hands tightening into fists at my sides. Suddenly, the air felt thick, heavy, suffocating. For a brief moment, his words almost got to me. Almost. But no, this was ridiculous. My wife. The woman who sent me messages reminding me to eat. The woman who kissed me every morning before I left for work. She wouldn't do something like that. I forced a chuckle and shook my head. "I appreciate the concern, really, but you must be mistaken." He hesitated, like he wanted to say more, like he was weighing whether or not to push the issue. In the end, he just nodded slowly. "All right," he said. "Maybe I am." I walked away, trying to brush it off. I really did. But that night, as I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, his words kept replaying in my head. I tried to shake them, tried to focus on anything else, but they clung to me, refusing to let go. I told myself there had to be a logical explanation. Maybe it was a relative, a friend from work, someone completely innocent. But even as I tried to convince myself, the doubt wouldn't leave me. I needed to know, not because I believed she was guilty, but because I wanted to prove to myself that she wasn't. The next day, while she was out running errands, I set up small cameras around the house. Nothing expensive, just basic models with memory cards to store the footage. A few discreet spots where I knew she wouldn't notice. As I adjusted the last camera, my hands trembled slightly. I hated that I even had to do this. hated that I was acting like some paranoid, insecure fool. But at the same time, it felt necessary. If she wasn't doing anything wrong, then there was no harm. And if she was, then I needed to know. And so I waited. Days passed before I finally checked the recordings. By then, I'd almost convinced myself that I wouldn't find anything, that the cameras had been a waste of time, that I'd let a stranger's words shake me for no reason. Sitting in front of my laptop, I opened the files. The first few days of footage were normal. Just my wife moving around the house, watching TV, cooking dinner. Nothing unusual. A wave of relief washed over me. I should have deleted the footage right then and forgotten the whole thing. But I kept watching. And that's when I saw it. My wife stood in our living room, smiling as she poured 2 glasses of wine. I frowned. The camera's angle wasn't perfect, but I could see her clearly. Her posture was relaxed. Her movements practiced. She wasn't alone. A man I'd never seen before walked in. He wasn't a relative. He wasn't a friend. He was a stranger. And from the way she greeted him, from the way she handed him the glass of wine without hesitation, it was clear they were comfortable with each other. I leaned closer to the screen, my stomach twisting into knots. No, there had to be an explanation. But then she laughed. A soft, familiar laugh. The same one that had once been meant for me. And then he kissed her. A sharp, hollow ache settled deep in my chest, twisting like a blade. I should have stopped watching, shut the laptop, erased the footage, and pretended I'd seen nothing. But I didn't. I kept watching. I watched as they moved to the couch, sitting far too close, his arms slipping around her waist. His fingers traced her back with the kind of ease that comes from practice. Then they stood, still holding hands, and walked toward the stairs, toward our bedroom. My breath hitched. My throat went dry. I could feel my pulse hammering in my ears, my fists tightening against the desk. I knew I should stop. Why am I still watching? But I couldn't look away. I watched as they disappeared behind that door, the door to the room I'd shared with my wife for years, the bed I had built with my own hands, the sheets we'd picked out together. The screen showed only an empty hallway now, that closed door standing like a silent betrayal. My hands were shaking. Some time later, the door opened, and he stepped out, wearing my bathrobe, the one I wore every morning after my shower. I paused the video, couldn't breathe. I just sat there, staring at the frozen image on the screen, feeling hollow. There it was, the truth, plain, undeniable, brutal. I could confront her, demand answers. Why did you do this? Why did you lie to me? Why did you bring him into our home? But what would be the point? I already knew how it would go. She'd lie, twist the truth, cry, beg. She'd say all the right things. It was a mistake. It didn't mean anything. I still love you. Maybe she'd even try to turn it around on me. You've been working too much, Nathan. You weren't there for me. I was lonely. No, I wouldn't give her that satisfaction. I wouldn't give her any reaction at all. Instead, I made a decision. Not to fight. Not to argue. Not to let her see that I knew. I would leave. And I would do it right. This wasn't just about walking away. I needed to erase myself completely. No loose ends. No way for her to track me. The first step was money. I still had bills to pay, expenses to cover. I couldn't make any sudden moves. But when I finally left, I needed to be financially secure. So I started saving. Every extra penny from my 2 jobs. Cutting back on anything unnecessary. No takeout. No impulse buys. Since I'd always managed our finances, shifting money around wouldn't raise suspicion. And Maggie, no, she never noticed. She was too distracted, too caught up in her new world to pay attention. Next, I opened a private account with a global payment service. A separate, untouchable place for my savings. I knew draining the joint account all at once would be a red flag, so I did it gradually. A few hundred here, a few hundred there. Bit by bit, I moved my share into the new account. Then there were the credit cards. We shared a few, and I needed to sever that link. One night, while we sat on the couch, I brought it up casually. Hey, I'm thinking of switching banks. First Union has better rewards. Might be a good idea to consolidate our accounts. She barely glanced up from her phone. Okay. Let me know if you need anything from me. She didn't care. As long as she had access to what she needed, she didn't ask questions. One by one, I closed the shared credit cards and replaced them with new ones solely in my name. Careful. Calculated. When I left, she wouldn't be able to track my movements through financial records. Quitting my jobs was the final step. I did it quietly, making sure to leave on good terms. No dramatic exits. No burning bridges. Just a polite resignation and a firm handshake. Nathan, you've been a solid worker, my boss said, clapping me on the shoulder. Hate to see you go, but I get it. Better opportunities, right? I forced a smile. Yeah, just time for a change. My coworkers wished me well, told me to keep in touch. Don't be a stranger, man. Someone called out as I walked toward the door. They had no idea that once I left that office, they would never hear from me again. At home, everything stayed the same, or so she thought. She was still seeing him, still bringing him into our home, still using our bed for what it was never meant for. And through it all, she remained oblivious. The night before I left, I sat alone in the living room, staring at the walls, the furniture, the framed photos that had once meant something. This wasn't my home anymore. It was just the place where I had been made a fool. I reached for my wedding ring, the simple gold band that had once symbolized love, commitment, and promises that had never been kept. I rolled it between my fingers one last time. Then I let it go. I didn't need it where I was going. At 4:30 a.m., with my bag slung over my shoulder, I stood at the door. No hesitation, no second thoughts. I turned the handle and stepped outside, letting the door close behind me with a soft, final click. I didn't look back. Not once. By the time the sun rose, I was already gone. I didn't know it then, but later, I would learn how it all unraveled for her. How she woke up that morning to an empty bed and, at first, thought nothing of it. Maybe she assumed I was in the shower or making coffee. But as she moved through the house, expecting to find me in all the usual places, that sinking feeling must have started creeping in. Nathan? She probably called from the hallway. From the kitchen. Babe? Where are you? Silence. She checked the bathroom. Nothing. The closet, my clothes were gone. The spot by the door where I always left my keys, empty. Her heartbeat must have pounded in her ears. Confusion twisted into panic. She grabbed her phone and called me. Straight to voicemail. Another call. Then another. Still nothing. Her hands must have trembled as she dialed my work number, hoping for something. Anything. That would restore a sense of normalcy. But instead, she received the final, crushing blow. Oh, Nathan? He quit last week. Someone must have told her casually, unaware of the tidal wave of shock they just unleashed. Said he was moving to another city. I imagine her stomach dropped right then. A sickening, hollow weight settling in as the truth began to crystallize. I hadn't just left her behind. I had vanished. Desperation chased away her confusion. She must have scrambled out of the house, racing to the bank in a last-ditch effort to salvage whatever she could. But it was too late. She got there only to find the joint account drained, emptied bit by bit until there was practically nothing left. The realization must have hit her like a brick to the chest. Standing there in the middle of the bank, clutching a useless debit card, she must have finally understood. I hadn't simply walked away. I had erased myself from her life, completely and deliberately. I don't know how long she searched for me after that. How many frantic calls she made. How many sleepless nights she spent staring at the front door, hoping I'd come back and undo the silence I'd left in my wake. But I do know this: she hired a private investigator. Spent money she probably didn't have, fueled by regret, guilt, or maybe just the unbearable sting of being outsmarted. She threw herself into the search, digging through every possible lead. But every move I'd made was intentional, every trace carefully wiped away. The harder she searched, the clearer it became that I had planned my exit with meticulous precision. Every step was calculated, because I knew her better than she realized. I knew she would search, that she'd try to claw her way back to me, to salvage what was left of us. But she didn't understand. There was nothing left to salvage. By the time she truly grasped the gravity of her betrayal, I was long gone. And as time passed, regret must have eaten away at her. I sometimes wondered what haunted her more. Losing me, or losing the life she thought was waiting for her on the other side of the lies. Did she regret it at all? Did she wish she had chosen differently? Or was she simply mourning the power she no longer had over me? Either way, it didn't matter. She couldn't fix it, couldn't explain it away or beg for forgiveness. Not anymore. Not after everything she'd done. She had no one to blame but herself. She hadn't just broken us. She destroyed everything we built, every promise we made. And there was no way to undo that kind of damage. Some things, once shattered, can never be made whole again. While she was consumed by regret, I had moved far away. Far from the country. Far from the memories that once haunted me. I chose a quiet island in the Caribbean. A place where time slowed down and life felt simpler. The chaos I left behind became a distant memory, its sharp edges dulled by the calm waves and warm sunsets. For a while, solitude was my salvation. I didn't need anyone reminding me of what I'd lost. I was free from betrayal, from lies, from her. But life has a way of surprising you when you least expect it. And one day I met Laura. She wasn't like Maggie. She didn't try to fix me or pry into my past. She simply accepted me quietly and fully. There were no games, no manipulations, just kindness, trust, and the slow, steady rhythm of something real. With her, I found peace. Real peace. The kind that comes from knowing you've left the worst behind. And when our daughter was born, I knew without a doubt that I had made the right decision. This was the life I was meant to live. This was my future. Years passed, and with each one, my past faded further into irrelevance. I wasn't hiding anymore. I didn't need to. I had moved on, and the life I'd built with Laura was everything my past life had failed to be. Honest, stable, happy. Until the day it came knocking again. I didn't see her at first. She saw me. I was standing outside with my daughter, her small hand in mine as she tugged me toward a market stall, excitedly pointing at something. "Daddy, look! The big fish!" she squealed, her little face lighting up with delight. I smiled, caught in the pure joy of the moment. And then I felt it, that shift in the air, the sensation of being watched. I turned, and there she was, Maggie, standing across the street, frozen in place, as if the world had stopped turning. For a second, I didn't move. I wasn't sure if she was real or just a shadow of the past that had finally caught up to me. But then I saw the look in her eyes. Shock, disbelief, and something else. Something that almost resembled regret. She was processing what she was seeing, trying to make sense of it. This wasn't what she expected. Maybe she thought I'd still be broken, bitter, haunted by what she'd done. Maybe she imagined I had spent all these years looking over my shoulder, waiting for her to come back. Instead, she found me whole, happy, unburdened by her betrayal. I watched as she took a tentative step forward, lips parting like she wanted to say something but couldn't quite find the words. I didn't rush her. I didn't give her anything to hold on to, because she had nothing left to offer me. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. A plea, a last desperate attempt to reach me. "Ethan." I tilted my head, studying her like a stranger, because that's exactly what she had become. For a moment, she searched my face, hoping to find recognition, emotion, something that told her I still cared. But all she found was emptiness. I let the silence stretch, long enough for the truth to sink in, that she was no longer part of my life, that she had lost me, completely and irrevocably. Finally, I spoke, my voice calm, distant. "I'm sorry. Do I know you?" The words hit her harder than any scream or accusation ever could. She blinked, her eyes wide with shock, searching mine for something, anything. But there was nothing left to find. For the first time, I saw something in her I had never seen before. Defeat. I didn't wait for her to respond. I didn't give her the chance to explain, to cry, to beg. I simply turned around, took my daughter's hand, and walked away. As we moved through the bustling market, my daughter tugged at my hand again, her voice pulling me back to the present. "Daddy, look!" she giggled, pointing at a toy. I smiled down at her. My past no longer had power over me. Some betrayals aren't meant to be forgiven, only forgotten. And as I walked away from Maggie, I knew one thing for sure. I was finally free. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories like this. See you next time.